It finally happened, Heat fans. Miami added another big to the roster, and it is a familiar face in Precious Achiuwa. It was announced by Shams Charania this morning that Miami is bringing back Achiuwa on a one-year deal. Obviously, this is a Heat player from the past, was drafted 20th overall in the 2020 NBA draft, the infamous selection, one pick prior to Tyrese Maxey to the Philadelphia 76ers. But we won't dwell on that today because Miami needed another big man on this roster because they didn't have one behind Kel'el, Ware, and Bam Adebayo. We've talked a lot about it being Achiuwa as the most likely option and best option still available. I know a lot of people may have wanted Kai Jones, but when he signed with a team overseas, I actually forget what team it was specifically, some team in Turkey, it was very clear that it was Achiuwa. And Barry Jackson actually reported this about a month ago that the Heat have not offered Achiuwa a contract, but have made it clear they are interested, and Achiuwa made it clear to Miami that he was interested in returning to the 305, had a house/apartment in Miami still from his days early in his career. So it was all about, hey, if the Heat offered Achiuwa a contract, there would probably be an agreement very quickly. More coming here, but this is why you subscribe to the channel, because when the Heat make a move, we have you covered. So join the family today. Heat training camp begins next week, and we'll have more details throughout this video on the signing and the contract for Achiuwa. Now, I do want to make this abundantly clear. The contract for Achiuwa is non-guaranteed. So what does that mean for Miami? It means as we are currently sitting, Achiuwa is not counting over the luxury tax. Miami was $1.6 million below the luxury tax before this move was made, and they are currently still under it, technically. Now, there are some contracts where the language is very important here with Achiuwa, because if it is one of those deals where it's like, hey, if you make our opening day roster, your contract becomes fully guaranteed. If that's the case, then if they keep Achiuwa for the regular season to start on October 22nd, well, then the Heat would be over the luxury tax. But I do want to make it clear, like, the Heat would have until basically the end of the year and the season to get underneath the luxury tax. So they could make a trade at the deadline to shave some money and get underneath that tax threshold, or they could just make another move like waiving Terry Rozier. But this could also be a contract where Coop was actually talking to me about it, to where maybe there's a specific date in the season, like January 15th was the date Coop threw out there, where it's like, hey, if you're on the roster past January 15th, it becomes fully guaranteed for the rest of the year. So the Heat could technically roster Achiuwa until that point and then ultimately waive him because they don't want to have it become guaranteed and cross that luxury tax threshold. So we'll have to see the language when it comes out officially, but it is reported by Anthony Chang of the Herald that it is non-guaranteed, at least as of right now, so they don't have to make a corresponding roster move as we're currently speaking to get underneath the luxury tax. But let's actually talk about what Achiuwa can bring to the team now, and no more financial talk until we get to the end of the video and talk about Rozier. But if you remember Achiuwa, he was drafted 20th overall out of Memphis. He was the freshman of the year and player of the year in the American Athletic Conference, but was ultimately dealt away after his rookie campaign in the Kyle Lowry sign and trade. So Miami wanted to bring in Lowry. They traded Achiuwa. They traded Goran Dragic and I believe a little bit of draft capital to get Lowry to Miami, and then they signed him to that three-year $90 million deal, excuse me. So Achiuwa joins this Heat roster now, and the Heat group is now at the max 15 spots. So the Heat no longer have an open roster spot, which is not that big of a deal because we needed the third big time. And listen, this has a lot of complications because the question is, will Precious Achiuwa actually be on the Heat roster to open up the season? Well, that influences who ultimately starts. That influences who is on this roster, like Terry Rozier. But, like, I still believe the Heat should probably open up the season with that starting lineup on screen. Davion Mitchell, Norman Powell, Wiggins, Bam, and Jovic. Because without Tyler Hero, Jovic needs to start to add that playmaking, that shot creation, and spacing from the perimeter. And we know Davion Mitchell is the logical replacement in the backcourt for being a pure point guard. But the Heat needed a third big because if Bam or Ware got hurt, well, the Heat don't have another one. And plus, during the course of an 82-game regular season, you take away injuries, you just simply need a third big to be in rotation because, yeah, you could stagger minutes to have Bam or Ware on the floor at all times, but what if you wanted to go big and have Ware and Precious, Bam and Precious, Bam and Ware? Well, now having that third guy to put in rotation with Kel'el and Bam, it just gives you more lineup versatility. It gives Erik Spoelstra more personnel groupings to work with, and we've talked in depth at nauseum over the past couple of months how crucial it was that Miami added another big man, and I'm glad it's Precious Achiuwa because I think he was the best one available. Grade the signing of Precious. Red pen time. Pen comment on today's show. A, B, C, D, or F. Let me know your thoughts on the signing. Well, we talked about Precious being a former Heat player. These were his stats as a rookie in Miami. He only averaged about 12 minutes a night that season, but averaged 5 points, 3.4 boards, shot 54% from the field in 61 games. And there was a lot that Precious did well in his first year, but there was also a lot of things he did poorly. He was not that strong of a defender, and he had a lot of issues handling the ball in tight spaces. And I'm not talking about being a ball handler. I'm talking about on lobs. I'm talking about, hey, we're running a pick and a roll. We're throwing a bounce pass to Achiuwa. He had stone hands. Like, he could not keep and control the ball in tight, close quarters in the painted area as a rookie. Now, he has improved in that. He has obviously become a veteran, and the game has slowed down for him. He's not the first-round talent that Miami thought they were drafting with that 20th overall pick, but he is a serviceable third guy. And you saw he was a negative 7.2 rating in the NBA as a rookie. But the reason why I really do like Achiuwa is because he knows what it takes to play for the Miami Heat under Pat Riley, under Erik Spoelstra. He is the best big man available. Like, you could have included Trey Lyles, who signed with Real Madrid. You could have included Kai Jones, who is in Turkey. There was, simply put, not a better free agent on the market to add to your roster that you could expect to help your team win basketball games in the regular season. And who knows? Maybe Precious is even on the roster to start the regular season because the Heat didn't like what they saw in training camp in the preseason, and they waived him, and they didn't make room because they didn't want to go over the luxury tax. That's very possible. But I'm going to choose to believe that he is ultimately going to be on this roster. The Heat are going to find a different way to stay underneath the luxury tax, waiving Terry Rozier. And I truly believe that this is a good move because there is not a more aggressive rebounder in the NBA than Achiuwa. Statistically, he is one of the best offensive rebounders in the NBA. I mean, you saw it. He averaged 5 and 6 boards a night while only playing 20 minutes. So you give him per 36 minutes, he's about averaging 10 boards. He's a great rebounder, even though he's a little bit undersized. It just speaks to the effort, the tenacity that he plays with, and that's something that Miami will really enjoy off the bench as their third big. And just think about this as well. He's certainly better than Thomas Bryant, who Miami had last year as their third big, and then ultimately traded to make room for Kel'el Ware. More to come here and finishing up this video in a second, but grab this Heat stainless steel mug/Tervis for $16 off, chatsports.com/Heat mug. Links in the description and comments of today's video. On clearance, usually $42, now just $26. Take advantage of that $16 off special. One more time, chatsports.com/Heat mug. Now, the next move that Miami could ultimately make here is waiving Terry Rozier. They don't need to do it immediately because, like I mentioned, it's a non-guaranteed deal, but this is the most logical thing that Miami could do. And I understand some people might say, hey, with Tyler Hero out for the first month of the regular season, why not keep Terry? Because the only other guards you have on the roster are Davion Mitchell, Drew Smith, and Kasparas Jakuponis. And do you really expect Kasparas to come in and be impactful as a 19-year-old rookie after how poor he looked in Summer League? And I understand that line of thinking, but you can make up for it in different ways. You can let Norman Powell handle the ball a little bit more. You can give it to Nikola Jovic, who has certainly had on-ball playmaking experience. The point I'm trying to make here is I would certainly rather have Precious Achiuwa on this roster than Terry Rozier. So if you feel good about Precious and you want to guarantee the contract for the rest of the season, well, you can do that and stay underneath the luxury tax by waiving Rozier, because Rozier has $24.9 million guaranteed of his $26.6 million contract. So if you waive him prior to the season, you would save $1.7 million, giving you ample enough space to stay underneath the luxury tax and add Precious Achiuwa. And I get it. The Heat are a team that doesn't like to pay people to not play. So that $24.9 million to going to Rozier, but not on the roster, is not very enticing or appetizing. But my point is this. He is not going to play this year regardless. Like, he isn't. Like, Rozier isn't going to play this year. So if you're going to have him just sit on the bench and say, well, we're paying him $26.6 million, but at least he's on the bench in the roster. No, like, who cares? Like, you're either paying him to sit on the bench or you're paying him to sit at home. Either way, it doesn't matter to me. Like, he's not going to play. So to me, I'd rather have the player that's going to actually impact the team in Precious Achiuwa. So waive Rozier and make Precious's contract fully guaranteed. Is that something you want? Is that the next move for the Miami Heat? Will the Heat waive Terry Rozier? Type Y for yes or type N for no. All right, we'll round out the video here. I think this is a smart move for Miami. We've talked about it in depth. We made like 4 videos over the past couple of months talking about how Achiuwa could re-sign with Miami. I talked about the possibility, talked about a report from Barry Jackson about it being the most likely signing Miami makes. We did a video about how Brett Siegel actually said the wide expectation around the league is that Achiuwa ultimately re-signs with Miami. So this is why you subscribe to the channel, because we made multiple videos telling you that this is something that very well probably will happen. And then when the video or when the move actually happens, we have you covered. And I'll tell you what, folks, because of Terry Rozier's saga, if he does get waived by the Miami Heat, we might be going live on the channel to celebrate. Subscribe, turn on notifications, and I'll see you with the video tomorrow. Go Heat.